Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen. It's my good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, sorry for that. It's too hot outside. I'm Karen Chang, and I'm your very close friend from Taiwan. And my honor to be here. And today, in this session, is the enable innovation and trust in internet economy. It's a long topic toward an interoperable online authentication and identification infrastructure. And this session is also supported by APrIGF Consortium, APKIC. And some of us are especially from APKIC, and some of us are from enterprise and also civil society. And welcome all of you. And last, we will have regional development of e-identification and e-authentication. And for the presentation, there are 5 presentations, and last will be the panel discussion through the view of civil society and also private sector or government representatives later on. And so here's me. I'm the Deputy Director in Board of Science and Technology in Executive Yuan of Taiwan. I also the chairperson of Business Case and Application Working Group of APKIC. And later we will have Dr. Wei-Chong Huang. He's the Deputy General Director from APrIGF, Industrial Technology Research Institute of Taiwan. Next will be Jong Hyung Bei. Sorry for the pronunciation. And Mr. Bei is the leader of Next Generation Digital Signature and Authentication Team of Korea, KISA. Mr. Vijay Kumar is the head of technology of Emura, is the enterprise of India. So why don't you have your handshake to everyone? Next will be Wanawit Akupu. Right, Akupu, yeah. He's the advisor to Permanent Secretariat of Ministry of Digital Economy and Society of Thailand Local. And Ming Xuan Wu, yes, Mr. Wu is the Deputy CEO of Open Culture Foundation, also the hackathon organizer of Gov0.Taiwan of Taiwan. Next will be Wong Sagong Nantawan Nantawan Wongka Gini, yes. Deputy Manager of Student Loans Fund, Office of Student Loans Fund of Thailand. So welcome all of them. Welcome. Thank you for coming. And we have the special guest. She will come in to join us from the video. And she's the Marina Korova. Hello, Marina.
Hello.
Hi,
Very
can you hear us? Okay. Marina is the Policy Officer of European Commission DG Connect Unit of e-government and trust of EU. Welcome her. And let me introduce, before the presentation, let me introduce the APKIC to all of you. APKIC actually was transferred by APrIGF Forum in 2007, focused on Asia region. And also we have lots of members like Thailand, India, Hong Kong, Macau, China, and also Taiwan, KISA, Korea, and Iran, and also Bangladesh. So we have 9 principal members in APKIC, and mainly focus on promotion of applications of PKI in e-commerce, and also e-government or e-financial. And what we do right now, right here, is to collaborate with global community to deliver a comprehensive framework of e-authentication. So here you go. The first one presentation will present by Dr. Huang. The topic is development of electronic identification and authentication in Asia. What he told us will include Asia region, not only one country. Is Asia region. Welcome, Dr. Huang.
Good afternoon, everyone. So here I will introduce some status of e-identification and authentication in Asia countries. So here is some background why we are here to discuss this topic. Because right now, today, e-identification and e-authentication is a very important fundamental technology for digital society. But right now, there are a lot of solutions for e-identification and e-authentication. So we have, right now, we have a national e-identification system in many countries that the country or the government issue identification cards to citizens. And besides that, we also have some other solutions. We have PKI that for more than 30 years is a very long history that we have the public key system, and we also have public key infrastructure system. And in recent years, we also have other e-identification solution try to make the e-identification mechanism more convenient, more convenience, and more with better user experience. One of them is FIDO. FIDO try to use public key technology, and in the same time, it also combine the biometric technology to try to provide a secure and stronger e-authentication system. And in the same time, we also have mobile connect solutions. So they are all about the e-identification and e-authentication. There are so many solutions, and we also have a lot of applications that depends on such kind of e-identification solutions. And in the other way, we also have some kind of legal and regulation framework in every country or every region. For example, we have an electronic digital signature legal framework in some countries. And we also have some regulation for e-transaction. And we also have some legal framework for other e-government or financial regulations. So I think the solution became more complicated today. We have many solutions, and we also have many regulation, many policy, and a lot of other considerations we have to face. So here is some basic idea why PKI is so, right now it's a fundamental infrastructure for many countries. Because in Asia country, there are many countries, they have a PKI legal framework. So here is a survey for members of an Asia PKI consortium. There are one similar, since that all of members of Asia PKI consortium all have similar legal framework for digital signature. For example, Korea, and in Korea we have national PKI and also government PKI, and Korea also have the Electronic Signature Act more than 20 years ago. And also China also has some similar regulation, and also India, and also Taiwan, Thailand, Hong Kong, and Macau. So that's why PKI is getting a very important fundamental of e-identification and authentication in Asia country. But however, right now there are many solutions try to make the system more convenient, and they think the PKI is a little too complicated. So there are many other systems. For example, in Korea is very aggressive in e-authentication and e-identification. So actually, Korea is a very good practice for national PKI. But right now, Korea also have a K-FIDO system that try to address how to let the PKI system can be very convenient to be deployed in the mobile environment. So later on, we have a session from Korea that will discuss about the Korea experience. And also for China also try to have a national EID system. And China, the industry of China, there are many big companies in China also try to join FIDO Alliance and try to address how to deploy e-identification system with very good user experience. And also in India, and we also later on we also have a session from India that will talk about the national e-identification system and PKI in India. And also in Thailand, also have a national PKI system. And also in Macau and Hong Kong, also have similar national e-identification system. So today we are here to share our experience and try to discuss if we can have better and comprehensive solutions for e-identification. So here, first of all, I will just mention about Taiwan. So in Taiwan, that we have a e-identification system in financial sector, and also with a national PKI system, and also in the telecom industry, also have a e-identification system. So here is some experience and practice how Taiwan deploy e-identification system. So first of all is Taiwan's public key infrastructure. So Taiwan start to set up the national public key infrastructure starting from year 2000. And since that, in Taiwan, we have two PKI systems. The first one in the left is a government PKI system, and in the right side is a financial PKI system. So based on the two PKI systems, we have a lot of government applications and also financial applications. That depends on government PKI and also financial PKI. And besides that, we also have many B2B applications, B2C applications, and even enterprise have a lot of applications depends on government PKI and financial PKI. And here is some example of the government PKI system. Among those applications, the most popular one is the e-tax filing system that many Taiwan citizens use e-tax filing system with PKI, enabled to download their yearly income very convenient. And starting from this year, the Taiwan also tried to set up a national Taiwan Financial Identification Center. So this Financial Identification Center tried to address the problem that the user have so many tokens that all can be used for the financial transactions. So such kind of an TWID center try to aggregate all the tokens. So they work together with the ID partners, and in the same time they try to provide some integrated solution that can use not only PKI system but also with some financial card, and even in Taiwan we have the healthcare insurance card that can also be used in the financial transactions. And actually in Taiwan that we try to address the financial transaction, it's an application-driven solution that for low-risk transactions, we can use a lot of e-identification solutions. But for high-risk transactions, that the PKI is mandatory for high-risk transactions. And the last one that starting from this year in Taiwan, the mobile operators starting to set up their ID identification system that work with a mobile connect service that was developed by GSM Association. So in Taiwan, we have a company that was founded by 5 operators. They work together to set up the mobile connect service that try to aggregate all the mobile operators in Taiwan to provide a single solutions that every application provider can just use such kind of service to verify the user's real identification. So that's based on the mobile connect solutions. So here is some experience from Taiwan, how Taiwan just try to use different solutions for different applications. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Huang. Dr. Huang brings us some kind of status of Taiwan or Thailand and India and also Korea, etc. of Asian countries status. And he's not only working on this PKI and also open data and big data in Taiwan. Next, we will welcome Mr. Baek from Korea. And Mr. Baek is in charge of the operation of Korea RUCA and also management of Korea's national PKI system. And he's also the representative of APrIGF. Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Jong Hyun Baek from Korea.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I tried to finish my presentation before 8 minutes. Okay. Yeah, my name is Jong Hyun Baek from Korea. Yeah, so maybe the current interests me so often, so I just directly have a presentation. Actually, this time I was like interested in the status of the Korean PKI shortly, and then we just develop, and nowadays we're using these FIDO plus PKI systems in Korea now. So I'm interested about the use case of the FIDO. Usually MPKI certificate with the FIDO technologies like that. Actually, just Dr. Huang interesting about the Korean PKI surely, but more exactly, we have two kind of PKI system. One is the national PKI, and the other is the government PKI. So maybe from 1999, we just establishing the Electronic Signature Act, and then from 2000 we operating these PKI, national PKI systems over 17 years, I think. And also another one is GPKI, is we call the government PKI, because just only for the public servant issuing this kind of GPKI certificate, and then they use that kind of their work. So, and also currently population of the Korea is 50 million people, but our MPKI user is just 36 million, over 36 million. So many of the people using this kind of system, but it's 70 years and also 36 million people using this kind of certificate. That's why we have a lot of challenge and sometimes argument or some complaint, lots of things. But most major complaint is on convenience. So we're just starting the development of this kind of technology. We are using the FIDO technologies. That's why we just solve some problem on the convenience for our national PKI certificates. So, and also as the importance on online life growth, so it's required to provide the online means that play the role of the identification and signature. So actually in the Korea, just offline, we just using only this plastic card, like we call the residence card, and also we need some signature, some kind of document. We're just using the seal or the signing in that time, but usually in the online is a totally different situation. So we just needed digital electronic signature act, or sometimes digital signature checks. Yeah, we need that kind of law, and also we just using the identification and the digital signature with that kind of certificates. So as I mentioned before, we just have in the accredited certificate is a national PKI certificate, because we just accredited the CA. We got the 5 accredited CAs, and then just the governments make legislation, and also government control this kind of system. So we just call the accredited certificates. So this is for the prevent tampering of the electronic documents and to confirm authenticity of the transaction on the cyberspaces. So I told them that, so actually ICT environment is changed to the mobile and such as the smartphone. So nowadays over the 6% user is using the certificate on the mobile phone, we just call the smartphones. So, and it's because it's more convenient and a little bit secure, and it's to the user accredited certificate. So that's why nowadays many people are using the certificate in the mobile devices. So that's the reason we're just starting these technologies development. So actually, FIDO Alliance released this FIDO Alliance specification at December 2014, and then we just preparing our a little bit different with not which complies the FIDO Alliance specification, but we just try to keep their specification, and also we can adapt it our national PKI certificate with the FIDO Alliance specification. So we just make some survey. Sorry. Okay. From 2015, we just survey, and we also just developed the FIDO Plus and national PKI certificate technologies at the time. And finally, we just 2016 May, we just announced the guideline for the safe use of the certificate in the smartphone environment with the FIDO technologies, FIDO authentication technologies. And also from May 2016, we just proliferation of the services such as internet banking and the online stock exchange. So currently, in the financial financial area, they can using the national PKI certificate with the FIDO authentication technologies. And also currently, we just ongoing job is a kind of the ongoing working is a cooperation with the Korean Microsoft for the applying the MPKI certificate in the Microsoft Windows Hello platform by using the FIDO technology. But it's not ongoing project, not decided yet. So anyway, we just trying to make more convenience to the user of the national PKI certificates. This is status of the user of the certification in Korea. So as I mentioned before, just 131% of the economically active population in Korea. So it means really large of the people using the national PKI certificates. So key application is internet banking and the smartphone banking and e-bill service, and also with the bidding and the online stock. A lot of service we can use this certificates. So this is shown the how can we making the FIDO and the FKI certificate link technology. That means we just national. Actually, it's one of as I mentioned before, one of the reasons that we just preparing these technologies is the convenience to the user of the certificate. So one of the big problem to them on convenience is memorizing the password, because we just recommended 12 characters, and then using the alphabet and the number and using the special mark, something like that. So they never memorize that kind of long password. So it's one of the complaints to them. Users complain. And so we just prepare these technologies, and also just so only using the fingerprint or iris, the kind of the biometric information can use for the password. So we can, without the password, we can use the digital certificate nowadays. So this is a kind of the FIDO Alliance specifications things. So usually version number 1 is just a smartphone environment with only they care about the smartphone environment. So just when you're using the mobile phone, then you can use this kind of fingerprint or sometimes iris can make some authentication. Usually that kind of security, that kind of technologies, and also they interest about how can we handle these FIDO technologies in the desktop environment. So first stage is just using the smartphone inside here. So when you're using the PC desktop, then using the mobile phone here, then it's sent to their information to their FIDO servers, and then again like this. So, but nowadays from FIDO version 2.0, maybe they can directly contact to the FIDO servers and using the FIDO technology in the desktop environment. So that's why we just have a cooperation with the MS about this kind of issues. So this is some detailed technology. So they have a 3 kind of the party, like it is user's device, and there is the relying party, and we needed CA system or CA needed issuing the certificate in these times. And also just when the user wanna making some certificate with the FIDO technologies. So that time, just FIDO authenticator, which cooperating with the PKI library, then just send making some CMP, make a CMP, and then send to the LAN party. Then just LAN party send to this kind of information to the CAs, and then they issuing the certificate and send to the user, and they just store the secret storage. Actually, we recommended trust zone in the smartphone. Okay. Okay, in this place, we recommend using the trust zone for the store this kind of information. And this is shown there. How can we using the FIDO information, biometric data without entering the password is like this. So usually PT data is inside here, the revelation key. That time we just using the PT and STTK links, then just encrypted the private key here, and then when they want to need a signature, we need to decrypt the private key using the biometric data. So we can just decrypt the private key and then signing the document using this private keys. Yeah, so I mentioned before that we can using the iris or the fingerprint with the FIDO technologies. So we got the real application like this. Many kind of bank can using the this kind of digital certificate with the FIDO authentication technologies. From last year, we just starting with this kind of the use case, and also this is the issuing flow is like this. It's maybe I think that you understanding about this just because you're the experts of this kind of place. So just I just shown that really RP client send to the RP server to the request the certificate, and then just FIDO server send back to the request for the registration in FIDO. Then just the user using the biometric information in here, then just send to the response to the request for the registration FIDO, and then they can use the certificate for the signing like this. And this is your usage of the certificate flow. So when they needed some service which is needed the national PKI certificate, we can use this kind of process, then just can signing the document with the certificate. Okay. It's just detailed flow, but maybe it's this for the developer. We can just reference to this kind of process, but I don't think we don't need to explain about this kind of real process. And reference is the JNM, JMP, IP, IR, and confirm message. Yeah, that's all of my presentations. Thank you.
Vijay. Thank you, Mr. Baig. And next will be Vijay Kumar from India. Vijay is the head technology at Emura of India and is instrumental in setting up e-sign technology under Digital India program. He is involved in technical architecture of e-sign from its start with India Information Technology Ministry and the largest electronic signature program in the world, enabling 1.45 billion to digitally sign using their national ID, using their biometrics or one-time passwords. Vijay is also on behalf of APrIGF, the Asia PKI Consortium. And let's welcome Vijay Kumar.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Kiran. So, I represent India here, so I'm here to provide a regional update as well as what's happening in the front of online authentication and identification infrastructure in our country. So, this is what I intend to cover. just a few minutes what it takes. So our national ID system and how the world works with identity and authentication, the authentication mechanisms, the interoperability, which is the topic of the panel now, then a brief introduction on eMudra and how we empower. So here we go. We have our national ID system. You would have heard of this Aadhaar, so which is one of the largest national ID system across the world. We have 1.25 billion population. Out of that, already 1.16 billion population is covered with national ID. So it's a 100% foolproof system. What is there? Approximately 98% of adults are already covered in this system. So what national ID does? It provides an identity to the resident, whereas it also empowers instant online authentication. It can be OTP based, fingerprint based, iris based authentication. Provides authentication as an open API service for online applications. That is most important thing. That's why ecosystem can evolve. Widely used by banking, government and other financial application for authentication as well as KYC of the users. Okay, that's the part of regional update, how national ID has emerged in India. The very second slide what I have is how internet world is evolving, right? So it was a closed room usage of the computer where a person and the system was being used. From there it went online, a person and a server somewhere authenticating. But now in today's world things have changed to something where it's things to things authentication. It's not just a person, human and a server being interacting, right? So what we have in today's world, there are some identities sitting here which can be either a user, either a device or either a thing. Thing is most spoken about IoT, Internet of Things. Then there is internet where there are several applications what we use. Several applications, they do interact with open APIs, integrations or services. And the other side, once again, we have users who has to recognize, validate the other person or other device. So similarly, we have almost a cross-connecting picture where users are authenticated by users. It's not just servers, users are by users or devices or things. So that's why there is trusted identities, authentication and validation and acceptance engine in the world. Then what is happening with authentication? Today we have about almost 15 plus factors of authentication widely adopted over internet. So passwords have come more advanced now. At least they are not short enough to be predicted. So there are advanced passwords. Then the important thing is PK, digital signatures have emerged. TOTP and HOTP mechanisms are there. Then there are various other forms of OTP. There are hardware tokens. There are mobile device certificates. Then there are smart cards. Biometric is most popular nowadays. Iris, fingerprint or voice. Then QR codes are there. Grid cards are there, and knowledge base. If you see, 4 of these are taking prominence and having more reliability when it comes to online authentication. That is PK or digital signatures. Even FIDO is based on the PKC, public key cryptography. Then there is a time-based OTP or HMAC OTP which is being used. Biometric is most popular now. Knowledge base. Knowledge base is something, generally these all authentications are used for 2-factor or multi-factor authentications. So if you see, knowledge base is one of the important thing. If there is something behavioral analytics going on, predictive analytics, and if this is more riskier transaction, and there comes the knowledge base authentication. It puts forward some questions about maybe some personal information or something, and you have to authenticate with that information. So these are the types of authentication which is being used. Coming to the topic of the panel, more is on interoperable online authentication and identity, how this has to be achieved. So there are 3 different things. One is how the technology and legal framework has to evolve. Maybe like it has to have more open APIs for standardized identities. So if you have identity system, maybe a banking system or maybe a national ID system or any kind of identity system, it has to come with some open APIs so that ecosystem can easily adopt. Second is data protection and privacy laws. This is more from the government concern. The country should have its own regulations for data protection as well as privacy, because when you say authentication or identity, you are revealing something to another person or another entity. Then comes security and audit certifications of the relying party system. So this is also more from the regulation standpoint. There should be some system, because when we say ecosystem is evolving, it's more number of people using this data. So that's why security and audit certifications are very important in this technology and legal framework. Then comes recognition of identities. So what are the recognized identities? What can be in the system? Maybe like government issued IDs, digital signatures under national root PKI, social IDs for reasonable assurance. Nowadays social IDs are being used for several reasonable assurances, so which may be of a medium assurance use case. Right? Then comes cross-border mutual recognition programs. So this is very important if world has to interact, right? So mutual recognition and also maybe data sharing agreements between the countries, recognition of national PKI and national identities. This is more on the mutual recognition front. So this is more on the topic. As eMudra, what we do, we are the largest certifying authority in the country. So we have about 18 million customers for digital signatures, 10 million online users who authenticate using our platforms in various banks and governments. We have about 100 plus large entities using our platform. And also what we have done is we have enabled 1.25 billion national ID holders of country to electronically sign on any mobile or the computer. So what we do as empowering the ecosystem, what at eMudra we do is we are the certifying authority. We have 20 million plus unique users. Short-term and long-term digital signatures are issued. And also as part of Digital India program, we are also the providers of electronic signature. We are the first and currently largest in that space. So online electronic signature service, we run about 200,000 users per day use this particular platform. Online instant short-term certificates are issued here. Then we have authentication platform, which is more used by banking and government apps. It carries about 10 million authentication transactions. Then also we have a paperless platform, what empowers all types of governments or businesses to go paperless anytime, anywhere. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijay. In Mr. Bay of Korea, he told us that the relationship between FIDO and PKI and also the FIDO Alliance, the International Standards Organization, and KFIDO. And in Vijay's presentation, he told us that what eMudra do for the online authentication and identification. And next will be Wanawit from Thailand. Wanawit is the advisor to Permanent Secretariat of Ministry of Digital Economy and Society of Thailand, and he's also the product localization and business plan expert, especially in the area related to smart card, PKI, mobile application, Unicode language issues. And he doesn't have any slides, but he could tell us many things and share with his experience. Welcome, Mr. Wanawit.
Okay. Good afternoon. Sorry that I don't have the slide. But the most important thing is what you're taking back. You heard a lot of jargon. I don't believe you understand what FIDO is. I also do not. I started my career with the PKI in 1991. Some of you don't even start. I worked even before PKCS cryptographic standard called SEIS, SAYS, which in Swedish word means stop. That is the first CA in the world, run by Ericsson under the name of AU System Consulting. So I implement the Swedish system under the Post. Then I come to Malaysia with the DigiCert run by Mimos. So I'm too old, not only going back home, but to take back in time. So I share with you what the dream we all have, and welcome to the real world. I'm not so optimistic, but the topic is about enabling innovation and trust in the internet economies. Two keywords: cross-border. So, are there any PKI exists cross-border? The closest thing in your hand is electronic passports. Can you use your electronic passport here? Doesn't exist. How much ICAO? Do you know, aware of the identity have been controlled under ICAO aviation industry called DOC 9303. even the SIM card standardization coming from that. Doc 903 chapters, ID 0, ID 1, ID 2. That's shaping up the whole thing. So what I like to say is that if you talk about the cross-border internet economy, there are three things you should taking back home. Welcome to the club. Physical world and digital world is not the same place. You allow only have one physical identity. Luckily for Thailand, we have two because we have Thai local language. You're born with Thai character. And then you have an English one that there are no intricate control. Welcome. So you get your names either from the teacher from Catholic school that are the nuns spell the family name in this way, and you go to the with another priest and he spell different family name. I have one of the staff, 4 of them study in different school, have the different family names. He applied a visa to go to UK, have to go to the UK embassy and prove that are the same family. Okay, that's the physical world we face. Digital world, or even mess, you can be anything. You can be Mickey Mouse, you can be anything. So, and do you know what it is? Interoperability. You need to know the RFC 822. Going back and read about that. That's the only way the internet works. Otherwise, you go for username and password. I think that nobody else in this room talking about that is out. If you talk about PKI, if you don't read RFC 822, fine. Everything is dreaming. The issue, there are a lot of discussion on ID, and tomorrow I think that are the domain part that I remember Edmund Chung, when we first met, he talked a lot about this internationalized emails. I don't even know what it is. Even though I work in the PKI, then I start to study that the most important thing that I can did to deliver to the world to create the interoperability on the domain parts. Which means that you can have your local language, IDN. Now the RFC talk about local parts. Local parts it means like wanawit@gmail.com. The gmail.com is the domain part. You can have a Thai, @Thai, kon.Thai, or any other language. The problem is the local part can be different. I don't want to go into the detail, but we still facing the problem of interoperability on because the coding on the local parts is different with the UTF-8 that have been standardization in PKI world, but in the domain industry they use this Punicode encoding. At least you remember 2 of these words. Study about that. The world is not ready yet on that aspect. So digital ID, you can have anything. One person can have 100. Physical world, you have only one. In Finland, where I lived for 15 years, legally I only allowed to have one digital ID. That is my first name, .family names, @post.feed. That are the sponsor domain that I can deliver to UPU. Post is the legitimate address for digital identity for me. It's publicly. They can enforce anything. I forget to pay the telephone bill, so they deduct the money directly from my account using that enforcement through. Now I start to talk about the legal aspect of it, but just keep in mind that digital identity is different than the physical world. And the digital always a case that people are trying to dream of a lot of problem and try to fix in the digital world. You're not going to go anywhere. Going back to check what physical mess up you have, leave it. Don't try to fix things on the digital environment. You're not going to go anywhere. Second issue, what we talk on the PKI, we have been working with this. We met each other when we were still very young, long time ago, 20 years, 10 years PKI. Now the time is come. It's not nice to have anymore. It's an enforcement coming through the regulatory capture trade facilitation agreement. There is 90 regional trade agreement in Asia Pacific. 90. 50% of regional trade agreement talking about top 50%, the top keyword is paperless document, paperless trading, e-doc. Second, electronic authentication and digital signatures. For Thailand, we're binding with ANSFATA, RCEP, TFA, Trade Facilitation Agreement. All these talk about digital signatures, cross-border recognition frameworks, and so it means that we are enforceable. We've been captured by all these trade agreements. Plus, you can respond if you're really interested in this. Go back, search the Interoperable model law. April of this year, published the most important document called Legal Issues on E-Authentication that respond to the cloud services, trusted service like FIDO. You have to read that if you're interested in this. This is the first time that is published under United Nations Convention. It's a big paper talking about trusted service, claiming services, how the relying party should do, what is agreed. I can talk about this 1 week. I've been conducting training with the bank, and all of them getting lost. Because these are the issues that you need to tie up between operational, legal aspects, and the technology aspect. You can talk about technology, but you don't get the understanding which direction you're going to go. Biometrics, retina, fingerprints, and it's not about mechanism. It's about how you conduct the business. That's the second thing. And if you want to get the update of Thailand, we don't even have one. We have a PKI, we have accredited CA, but it's only used in domestic. I speak on the chapter. The chapter is talk about the interoperability, internet. As I'm currently, on Saturday, there's also the session on the trade. I'm currently the chair of the e-commerce of the RCEP. That's one whole chapter. If you're interested, you can search RCEP e-commerce, and you will find out that people talk a lot about whether we go blockchains and all that stuff. No. The world is living with digital signature, mutual recognitions, because that proved an ancestral model law 1996 plus the release of April this year is even confirmed that the world is still based on the PKI, CA, legal frameworks. Because without the interoperable legal frameworks, the interoperable technology doesn't exist. How do I recognize the credential issued by Taiwan to Thailand? You need a legal framework. Like Mr. Kwang is already list out which country have. It's the legal frameworks, and legal frameworks is very old. It's still based on 1996. Sorry for the innovation or startups. You have to go back in times, and the playing field is, we always call it golden oldies, right? Somebody getting rich by cover the old golden oldie. Think about that. Catch up the new technology. There are no fundamental for you to grow up. But if the new generation look back in time, make a cover based on golden oldies, utilize. I really appreciate the FIDO Alliance, and this is the cover that you make based on the existing technologies that is proven, it has been stated in several agreements. So, but if we have a touch of the fintech, the new generation, that they are fascinated about new technologies, and you have to look back, study very hard on whether we talk about keywords in the last message for me. We talk about PKI, we talk about identity, digital signature. The keyword is legally binding. So without the understanding of legal frameworks, how the cross-border legal frameworks, why ancestral need to coming up, why every country need to state that we follow the ancestral model law. So the technology cannot giving the answer and achieve the interoperability without look back in time. So that's the message I want to convey with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wanawit. Cross-border paperless legal framework and trust services. also fintech or blockchain that we have to focus on. And later we will have a panel discussion. And yes, Marina. Sorry, we have Marina from Europe. Marina, are you there?
Yes, you can.
Good. Marina actually is from EU. Okay. Marina, can you start right now?
Yes, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Okay, you can start right now.
I would like to talk. Can you hear me well, actually?
I'm sorry again.
Marina?
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the EIDAS regulation and the model it sets for electronic identification and trust services. But first of all, where it comes from and what is the rationale behind having such a framework. Well, we have an internal market in the EU, but we are also facing more and more digital challenges, and the EU being an entity of 28 different member states, these challenges require a common approach. And sometimes the rules that we have for the physical market cannot be applied in a straightforward way in the digital domain. So in many areas, we need to update our legislation to keep with upcoming trends in order to be able to face the opportunities that the digital area can give to all of us. So we have worked for many years to remove physical barriers, and now we are trying to remove the digital barriers and borders where they still exist. So how does EIDAS help in this? I'm sorry, just right back. So what EIDAS tries to enable is the building of trust, convenience, for seamless digital transactions across borders. And this is really important. These are really key principles for us, and the EIDAS is trying to solve issues that are in this area. So we have a regulation that is based on the internal market principle now. And the internal market principle says free movement of products and services across the EU. EIDAS is one regulation for electronic identification and trust services, and it is directly applicable in the 28 member states. This is important because in the past it wasn't the case. We used to have a directive on electronic signatures, and the directive as a tool implies a transposition within each member state. So it led to many different national implementations in the area of electronic identification and e-signatures. In addition, the electronic signature could be used as an identification tool. Now, under the EIDAS regulation, electronic identification and trust services are completely separated in terms of rules that are applicable to them. So, trust services in principle are market-based service. So these include electronic signatures, electronic seals, timestamps, certificates for website authentication, electronic registered delivery services. So these services are now completely separated from the electronic identification part, and for them we have applied the principle of harmonization of rules. Now, in the area of electronic identification, And because electronic identification is the sovereign right of each and every member state to decide how they want to do it, we cannot apply the principle of harmonization. So there, what we have is the principle of mutual recognition underpinned by interoperability. So this is what the EIDAS regulation brings. It is one regulation, but it foresees the opportunity to adopt up to 28 additional implementing acts and one delegated act to clarify further where necessary technical and other implementing rules. So far, we have adopted 4 implementing acts in the area of electronic identification and 4 on trust services. I have a link with the references for those of you who are more interested to dig into more details at the end of my presentation. But so, the key principles for electronic identification in the European Union are cooperation between member states. Member states are obliged to cooperate in the process of having their electronic identification schemes recognized across the EU. There is also the principle of reciprocity, which relies on defined levels of assurance. So if a member state requires a certain level of assurance for its citizens, say level substantial, and there are 3 levels like this, I will talk about them later, the member state cannot request a higher level for the citizens from another member state when they decide to choose their own national EID means to authenticate. So there is a mandatory cross-border recognition only for public services. So the member states are, whenever they require electronic identification for the services they provide nationally, they are also obliged to recognize other EID, notified EID means. But this is not applicable to the private sector. The private sector is completely autonomous to choose whether or not to rely on EID means that are issued or recognized by a member state. So member states are, as I've mentioned before, are completely free. It is their sovereignty to decide what kinds of EID means to use, whether or not to use at all. And we have the interoperability framework. So how do member states cooperate under EIDAS? The cooperation is based on a implementing act which defines the rules for this. Member states are obliged to cooperate in order to ensure of interoperability and security of the system. They appoint points of single contact from each member state. Whenever a scheme is notified for cross-border use, member states initiate a peer review to ensure that this scheme complies with the level of assurance it claims to have, with the security, etc. And all this is happening there is a voluntary participation in the peer review, but actually member states cannot be denied the right to take part and to make sure that indeed this scheme can be accepted as a cross-border identification. There is a lot of exchange of information and experiences and good practices on continuous basis, and this is happening largely in a mechanism that is set, the so-called cooperation network, where member states take part, and this is convened by the European Commission. And this cooperation network adopts opinions and guidance and helps in the process of achieving interoperability and security of the EID framework. So for the interoperability framework, the purpose of it is to reconcile the differences between the very diverse national schemes. I mean, we have very different models. We have EID cards, we have mobile identification system, we have, in some cases, member states recognizing the bank card as a valid identification means. So really, really a variety of tools. And all these tools need to be able to interoperate to, across borders. So the interoperability framework we have been building in the EU is aiming to be technology neutral, and it sets only a high level of requirements. And we have an open source technical specifications that are developed under a program, and they are available for each member state to adopt. Member states shouldn't impose disproportionate requirements on each other. It's really the point is to make sure that the information that is being exchanged can be understood by by each member state across borders. So there is a system of nodes that is being established in each member state, and there's an interconnection between the nodes, and they communicate based on established standards. The electronic identification schemes in Europe must meet certain levels of assurance, and the APrIGF regulation defines 3 levels of assurance: low, substantial, and high. And these are very much outcome-based levels of assurance, so they are not prescriptive, but they set the objectives to be achieved, and they are only applicable to schemes which are interoperable across borders. So there is an implementing act which sets clear criteria for each level of assurance. And what is important to understand is that member states have the obligation to recognize electronic identification means which are of the same or higher level than the ones that they are requesting nationally. But they have no obligation to recognize lower levels of assurance. And here there are just a few very high-level description of the elements which different levels of assurance have to address in order to comply with the implementing acts. And as you can see in the level high, it bears the kind of presumption of equivalence to in-person identity and verification. This is very, in the interest of time, I mean, I kept a very high-level description of the system that we have related to electronic identification. But what is the timeline for all this? The implementing acts, all the implementing acts were adopted in September 2015, and since then, member states have been able to recognize on a voluntary basis other member states' EID schemes. But as of 29th of September 2018, all member states will be obliged to recognize notified schemes. So basically, this is the date when the actual cross-border effects of the APrIGF regulation will be kicking in. So where do we stand in terms of implementation? The majority of the countries are well advanced in implementing the IDAS node, and which needs to be set up also by the 29th of September 2018 and be operational for the purposes of recognition. All the others are making a lot of efforts, and they have still time to meet the deadline. Most of the countries have one or more EID schemes. Others are in the process of implementing one or setting up legislation in view of having one in the future. We've already had one country that notified their EID scheme. This was Germany, and the EID scheme went under the so-called peer review, and the Cooperation Network issued a positive opinion. So the next step is the formal notification, which will happen at the end of August, and afterwards, the process for Germany is finished, and we are actively encouraging other member states to also step up their efforts and notify their schemes, because this is a huge opportunity for their citizens and for the EU as a whole. So this was, in very brief terms, a presentation of the EID framework in Europe. I'm happy to answer any question that you may have, and I would like to say that that we believe this is a very unique approach, a federated approach for cross-border interoperability and mutual recognition, which could possibly inspire other regions to adopt similar approaches on a regional basis. Why not even further? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina. And actually, Marina is from EIDS. Thank her for sharing with us in member states cooperation in EID and also interoperability framework and the level of assurance, etc. And since she is the remote speaker, so if there are any questions, will you please ask her right now? Any question to Marina or to the EIDS of EU? If no, thank you, Marina. Okay, and we are going to have the panel discussion. And through, we would like to invite people or speakers from the civil society and private sector, also the government representative. And we have some kind of topics that we would like to discuss, but not limited for those 4 topics that I will read for you. The first one is, what is the most important policy and technical consideration in the development of e-identification and authentication application? That is the first one. The second one is there a single solution to provide an secure and convenient e-identification authentication mechanism? Third one is how to accelerate international cooperation to develop interoperable e-identification or authentication framework. And the last one is anything else, please raise to have a panel discussion. And the first one I would like to invite is Nantawan. Yep. The great Miss Nantawan, Honorable Nantawan, is the former Electronic Government Agency's head of Innovation Department. EGA takes the roles to develop and integrate information and communication technology systems to achieve establishing e-government, which is the country's key strategy to effectively leverage government's capabilities of management and public service systems. Let's welcome Nantawan. Nantawan right now is the Deputy Manager of Student Loans Fund, Office of Student Loans Fund. Let's welcome again, Nantawan.
Good afternoon. Actually, yes, I was former of EGA. Has anybody know about EGA? Electronic Government Agency of Thailand. Come on. Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. Actually, I'm work for student loan. Anybody know student loan? There you go. Same faces. I used to be electronic. I mean, you know, doing a lot of computing and blah blah blah. But now I'm a different. I'm looking at a different angle, right? More like user now. So this topic, it was interesting when Karen talked to me and said, "Hey, look, are you interested for this topic?" I said, "Oh, sounds like it's something that we use or we want to use, right?" Because in my office, let me talk about my office. You know, it will be something in the first question. You know, what is the most important policy and technical consideration in development of identification, authentication, application? Is so long. Anyway, so in my office, the loan applicant, I don't want to have a paper anymore. I want to have paperless. Ease of use, no paper, no warehouse to collect, no more, right? We don't cut the tree anymore. What do I do? How do I know that the user from suburban somewhere in Thailand is say who she is or who he is, right? And that's the thing that I'm looking for is e-authentication or mobile authentication. I don't know, e-authentication is already out, I don't know, maybe. Or the mobile authentication is obsolete. In Thailand, mobile is everything. If I don't have a mobile, just like I am naked. Seriously, everything is in my mobile. My calendars, my life, everything, her names. I can't even spell her last name if I don't have my mobile. Everything is here in my life. So, in terms of it, I want the student or my follower to be ease of use. That means I need to come up with something to identify her or him. That means I have to have a policy in my office saying that, all right, from now on, new semester, the policy goes, every borrower, the new borrower, has to download my application, right? That authenticate who she is or who he is, whatever it is. I might have to go with the service provider and say, hey, look, put the SIM with the PKI, blah, 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 whatever it is, ISA 1024, ISA 2048, whatever it is, the encryption, the algorithm that they can provide, I don't care. I'm a user. As long as I can say is legal, first of all. The law is good for them and for me. I'm not doing something illegal, and the borrower is not something illegal. They are responsible for when they digital signing it, right? Because I will collect them if they default, if their loan become default. So anyway, that's the thing. Policy come first. I don't care what it is, but policy drive all of this application. Without policy, you can't. Even you have innovation, blah, 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 but the user need to use from the policy. My office can designate, all right, from now on we use this. Then the application, the innovation will come now. Everybody will come to my office and say, hey, look, I have this idea. What do you think? What do you think? Then we consider with the technical in developing it, right? So this question is really, from my office or from my standpoint of view, is yes, policy, it has to come up with it. We need to make sure that policy come out and it's fair for everybody. It's ease of use, making sure that it's applicable for them and for us as the user and the owner of the system, right? And that's the thing. And really, anybody has borrowed the loan before? Or not the student loan, any loan. Has anybody borrowed a loan? Man, everybody rich here. No?
Well, we're looking at the chance we can speak, Lo.
Oh, okay. You want to speak?
Because is that open for the people to ask the question, or you just keep making the presentation?
I don't know. I'm not sure either. Okay, so let's ask the MC. Go ahead and ask, I guess. I'm not sure. Go ahead. She said go ahead.
Okay. I think you know this is the APrIGF. We are talking about the Internet Governance Forum. So in the Internet Governance Forum, we are really concerned is a mechanism, right? I know the PKI, we know, I think we are in this area for 20-some years. we really like to know is how the policy development mechanism is. It's just a development by government top down, or the people can have say. Or you are implement the identification, and somebody say, and the people cannot say anything, or we just follow it. So we'd like to know what is the mechanism there to let us know how we can participate.
Okay.
I think the people here, he know that in the internet governance, we really care is a process. The technology, this is not new, everybody know. And we really like to know when you implement this technology in the application, what is the mechanism you are going to use. And that is the point I'd like to raise and ask you all, tell us, and so let other people have a chance to give their opinion.
Okay, go ahead. What is it? Question and answer session?
I think South Korea is one case on point on what Dr. Koo has said. The perilous risks of government's top-down approach on e-authentication. South Korea passed a law that all online payments are underwritten by a government-issued electronic certificate, PKI based, and people are required to download these certificates issued to individuals on their hard drives, on their mobile phones. But because it was issued by South Korean government, it was not recognized by dominant web browsers, Chrome, etc. So the users had to download all these plugins to make it work. And as luck would have it, they had to do it through ActiveX, which Microsoft had abandoned many years ago and stopped servicing, which created a lot of security risk because that trained people into accepting all these plugins that create this that cause these alerts. There is this untrusted plugin would you accept, and all these Koreans are trained into accepting untrusted plugins, right? Which created really bad security hygiene. And also, because so many plugins were downloaded, there were compatibility problems among the software and with the hardware. So I'm KS Park from OpenNet Korea, and civil society worked hard for several years to abolish the law that required all online payments to be backed up with government-issued certificates. All the decision of creating the electronic government-issued certificates and then making them mandatory on online payments, it was all done top-down without really consulting with the users. That I think just wanted to back up what Dr. Koo has said with a case study in Korea. Now, even with the law abolished, we still have a problem because the whole industry have lagged behind, have not really developed other secure authentication methods than these government-issued certificates. So, although it's no longer mandatory, the banks and all these financial institutions are not investing resources in developing new ones. So people are still suffering from all these plugins, and so computers crash, and so what you decide top down will have consequences for decades. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Are you from Japan or Korea?
Korea.
Yeah, from Korea. So are you done?
I just want to make sure that what I say was even the formulation of the policy is not top down automatically. Is when you talk about the policy formulation, that means you have to consider the people voice as well. But when you formulate, there's a process of formulation, not laughing matter. But really, the formulation of policy is not just the hearing saying right now. When the process is actually here from the voice, from the citizens, but then actual law or policy come down. Yes, it's from the top down, but the formulation process is from the citizen. We heard from the people, and that's the process itself. You have to understand the process first.
I agree. I think in your case might be, but not necessarily in the other countries. Okay, so don't use your case to to say the other countries doing that. Many
Never say
countries
that. Never say that. I said my case.
Well, in Taiwan doesn't do that.
I said my case.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wu, and thank you, Ms. Nantawan. And since we negotiated additional 15 minutes for this session, so we have another 15 minutes. We have let's see the opinions from civil society. We have Mr. Ming Xuan Wu, his TTCAT, and later his opinions. Let's have some feedback from Mr. Bei from Korea, the government. And Mr. Wu is a well-known activist and campaigner of civil society in Taiwan, involved in the anti-nuclear and environmental issues. He has his expertise and the well-known communication design and programming. Also the 12.0. Yeah, Mr. Wu.
All right. So, hi everybody. So, I come from Open Culture Foundation. We care about open source. We care about open data and open government. And I'm also a member of a Taiwan Human Rights Association. So I'm here to speak certain topic or opinion from civil society. So I think regarding this topic, I think the most important what the civil society want is understand how this legal framework to protect your privacy, how the data security stored in where, and also whether or not people have a right to choice if we want the old-fashioned way only, or we can choose which solution we want, or we can control how much risk, like if I want to go high risk, but I only want 2 factors because it's convenience. Can I choose or not? Or the last one is which agency can access our data. As you know, if we use the e-ID online, they will generate a lot of new data. You don't have that before, like metadata, like the record about when and where you use for what purpose. And this kind of data can actually mapping your whole life, what you're shopping, your health record, not exactly the detail, but which doctor you see, right? And so on. So what's the policy and the regulation to restrict government or private sector to access this kind of data? This, we didn't hear too many from that. And the second part is open standard and open source for the platform, so third party can review the code. Like Taiwan, we have this, I don't know how to say that. We have this kind of like an EID, but it's not. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's a PKI, right? Yeah, but the private key actually is generated by government, not generated by user. Yeah, so that's a problem. And another problem is the driver is not open source, so we can only use the Windows, and it cannot be used on the cell phone and the Mac. So still, there's a lot of things have to going on, right? And the third question is, it's a further discussion. It's not we are talking today, but the further fear is about the biometric, just biologic, right? So Right. I think I will leave my time to others. So that's basically all I have.
Thank you, TTCAT. So we have the representative from the government, that is Mr. Bae from Korea. You have any feedback? Yeah, say something. Yeah. And next will be Vijay from Imura.
It's very, I think it's very difficult issue, and also every country has different situation. So I'm not sure how can I explain about this. Anyway, I don't care who control or who making the policy or legislation or technical consideration, but just some party who can making some regulation or something policy. It must be the government. Yeah, and it's not for person to the user or person to the citizen. Just making some policy and regulations for using and for safety or secure, something like that. And also every private sector's company can develop the technical part. So maybe it's not big. I'm not sure. It's even in Korea, I got some problem with that. Not problem, just some argument or some problem is faced about this kind of issue from NGO and the government part. But anyway, for the most important thing is just think about the user. How can make them easier, make them convenience, make them secure. But secure is not the convenience. Is not the it's a little bit difficult meaning. We want to make it more convenience, but if there's kind of making the some security is there, so I'm not sure how can we ask to them use that kind of system. So yeah, it's my just opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bae. And Vijay, you are from the private sector. Do you have any solutions to face this kind of solution? What's your opinions, please?
Yes, we work closely with the Government of India also, and I think this is the matter what comes from the public generally. What is the security? The data is there with government or any agency. So that's why generally the solution revolves around transparency, right? So that's why if there are technical solutions which are talking together, then there should be some open API standards. They should not stick into closed APIs. Then the ecosystem should evolve. Then the privacy would increase. Then also the open platform should be in place. I think you had the right points mentioning the right words in place. It's more about open platform and also not sticking into single programming language, right? It should not be something like it works only on Windows and not in other maybe Linux or Macs or the mobiles of the world, right? So that's why the technologies around this particular topic should be very much programming language agnostics and work with any solution. And also legally talking, what I also covered in my slide, government should look into some data protection laws and the privacy laws so that people can rely on the data what is submitted to the government. That is very much important to build the trust in the people.
Thank you, Vijay. Any other opinions or suggestions from the floor? Mr. Huang.
Thank you. Kenny Huang, APrIGF Executive Council member, also from Taiwan. Basically, I have two questions. I'll try to make it quicker. The first question is, based on the definition of public key infrastructure, theoretically, the public key and infrastructure should be well coordinated and should be interoperable among themselves. That's all called infrastructure. But basically, in the reality, all the countries, their PKI systems are not talking to each other. That become a walled garden-based application in reality, walled garden-based application. So actually, how can we making that kind of well coordination among the different PKI systems? Not only in different countries, even in one country, they probably have different isolate PKI systems. They don't talk into each other. So my question for the first one actually should be reflect to what sort of model we need to apply to resolve that kind of conflict. The model I called in here could be multi-stakeholder model, could be define the legal framework, which way would be appropriate to define that model to identify what sort of architecture will be required. That's my first question. My second question is, usually a centralized identity system has a tendency to stimulate variety application. And for that kind of tendency, basically, do you think from your opinion has potential risk that violate personal data? Because usually personal data can only be collected for a specific and lawful purpose. Thank you.
I have a question. So what happens in case so I wanted to understand, like, if Thailand has a EID program, then what happens in the case when this is not working? So I can tell you from the perspective of India, so we have the Aadhaar system, and it is also linked to a variety of welfare schemes. So, but what happens at times is that sometimes the authentication services, they do not work in remote areas, in remote Indian areas, and what happens is the citizens are not able to get the benefits. So, and those are people who are basically surviving on the bare minimum, and those bare minimum from the government is not being passed on to the people that they are actually aiming for. So, so is there a similar situation that happens in Thailand, or what is the solution to such a problem when it occurs?
Okay, I have to make it brief. I think for the model points, I think look into the trade agreement. They realize the problem of the government. Whether it's go for multi-stakeholder model is not, is still challenged, because I think when we discuss the trade, this is the first time we go for multi-stakeholder partially model. We listen to EFF, we listen to the communities, we bring them into the trade negotiation session, side event. So we work quite close with several communities since I working in the e-commerce. Secondly, if you read the text, several keywords mentioned about the business. And no party shall having a regulation that prohibited the business. It's the liberty of business to choose which technology they're going to use. I talk about this in terms of cross-border. Okay, even if there is a carve-out on the government policy, legitimate public policy, that, okay, government can coming up with the local measure, regulate certain things. But in fact, if you read on WTO necessity test, it means that even if you have the legitimate policy, you are the government, you have specified this mechanism to be used, it has to be mobile only. But then when you propose this to WTO, WTO might say, no, this is not necessity. Not every country is created discrimination, so then that measure cannot be used. So that is the empowerment from trade agreement that recognize the problem of the difference. I talk about this only on the context of cross-border. So try to read and try to put yourself into the trade agreements that carve out a lot of government measure, and that why I call it capture of regulator or regulatory. They are not free anymore. When you talk about the cross-border, the community, the WTO is backing up you. The most important thing, I still challenge whether the business exactly know what they're going to do. The only cross-border I'm aware of is SWIFT, and based on the technology in 70. What else that are cross-border in business? And that are the preparation part that the private sector need to work together. What initiative you want, what technology you want, that satisfy, fill in the legal framework that ancestral empower you. I think community empowerment coming with wisdom, the collaboration works. You have a unified voice, cross-border, which are the model we're going to work. It's not government to setting up this kind of forum for the business sector. How the business come together and coming out as a single voice to the government and say, this is what we want, this is the way we want to have it. Then I think that my view on it. The government you mentioned about, and we have that case to the government opened the office 924, and then not to mention that is the denial of service in terms of the system having a compromise or problem. They even closed the system. So after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's not available anymore. So I think that are the issues that the community and business have to voice for the government. But PKI have nothing to do with that, because it's not the issue, but the other service might have that I think that it's just an issue of service level agreement or affirmation of commitment that the government need to make to the private sector.
Thank you, Wanawit. Thank you all. And time is up. So if there's any other further questions, it's more then welcome to go up to the speakers to have a chat or discussion for further. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you.
Hello, Marina?
Yes, hi.
Are you still there?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, we have finished. So, thank you, and I will send you some material for our meeting.
Great.
Okay, so see you next time, Marina. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the time.